You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Live from Force 13 HQ and from our contributors from around the world. Here's your tropical weather bulletin. Good evening, it's August 14th and we've got several systems active right now. Tropical Storm Gert, which will be our leading headline tonight in the Atlantic, which formed earlier today. Also, Tropical Depression Hova, which is still weakening out over into the Eastern Pacific and dying. Invest 91L and 91W on either side of the world. 91W over there in the Pacific with Typhoon Banyan as a Category 2. This is what Gert looks like right now, 40 miles an hour, 1011 millibars, 28.1 degrees north, 71.7 west. No warnings in effect, and none are expected to go into effect anytime soon. The storm's expected to move towards the north and then northeast, and then move out to sea over the next few days. Effects are likely to be minimal from this system. Some intensification is possible. It looks pretty good on the satellite right now, and we'll get to see some more of that a little bit later. This is just where we envision the track to go over the next few days. 4 or 5 days that will probably take for it to get off towards the northeast, and likely extratropical transition will occur later. Not anytime soon though. This is the wide shot of the Atlantic Ocean. 91L can be seen on the far right there, not too far from the Cape Verde Islands, moving out towards the main development region of the Atlantic, and Gert off towards the northwest up there. The East Pacific looks like this. There's Hova moving off towards out to sea, and it's not going to be doing anything at all by the looks of things. And the rest of the Eastern Pacific looking pretty quiet right now as well for the time being. Now, having said that, it has had a pretty active period until now, hasn't it? The West Pacific, 91W is just at the bottom of the shot there, southwest of Guam, and you've also got Banyan, which is moving off towards the northwest. Looked fantastic for a brief period last night, but at the moment it's a Category 2 and still trying to get to grips with itself, I think. The Australian and South Pacific region looks fairly quiet at this moment in time. Some significant thunderstorms occurring near the equatorial and tropical regions, but nothing really of note. The Indian Ocean also pretty quiet north and south. Just the usual monsoonal type patterns that we're seeing there, though there was a system down there in the South Indian Ocean that almost formed not long ago, several days ago. The sea surface temperatures look like this. The Eastern Pacific not so warm. I'm not sure if this is actually up to date, but I believe it is. 30 degrees or more over in the Gulf of Mexico and in the Western Caribbean, very warm over there. And off into the Indian Ocean, fairly warm temperatures over there too, particularly on the western side. And there's the Philippine Sea, one of the hot spots as well in the tropical region. 91W won't have any issues with sea surface temperatures, that's for sure. So this is Tropical Storm Gert right now on the latest floater imagery. You can see how it's been wrapping together over the last few hours. It's got at least 40 miles an hour winds. I suggest it might possibly be a little bit higher at this point, though it doesn't appear to be rotating quite as what you'd expect from a tropical storm, but I do believe it is quite clearly a tropical storm, just that it could improve on that just a little bit. You can see its general movement. It looks to be north-northwest. It will move towards the north sooner or later, and then gradually curve off towards a more easterly direction, out to sea in between Bermuda and the Outer Banks, and off towards the left there you could see the Bahamas. Here where we are right now, in terms of the names so far, all but one of the Atlantic storms have been tropical storms only and not hurricanes. The Eastern Pacific's had a bit more luck in that regard. 5 tropical storms and 5 hurricanes of various intensities. The Western Pacific has also had a lot of tropical storms so far as well. And of course in the North Indian Ocean our next name will be Oki at the beginning of List 7. Also, the Southern Hemisphere has a reset, of course, with the new names this year. Australia will start where it left off with Hilda. In the Southwest Indian Ocean, you can see all those names there. And over in Fiji, the next name is Fahey. So that is our roundup right now. And to talk about it over the course of the next hour is our live team here on Skype. We're joined by David, Dane and Isaac at this point in time. Hi guys, how are you? Good evening.
Hello.
Hello. Who'd like to begin on this tonight?
Well,
No one.
there's not many in here, but obviously, Gert is the closest one to home over here in Atlantic. Expected to, well, I believe last time I checked, it was expected to peak as like around a 60, 65 mile an hour storm as it's turning. Extratropical models haven't really wanted it to hit the USA because of, I believe, a really strong wind. So it shouldn't.
There's the wonderful view from Isaac's place, by the way.
Yeah, that's what it looks like right now. But it's not really expected to like hit the USA or whatever. But the only thing that it'll really do to us is maybe give us some increased rip currents and maybe some increased rip currents and higher tides than the usual.
Oh, I see Dana's gone straight to the models. So
Maybe I can help us with that.
I'm sorry?
Maybe I can help us with that.
Yeah, well, there's the Atlantic picture right now with the GFS model. As you can see, you can quite clearly see Gert denoted there, and the next potential system, 91L, and staying, well, it looks like a tropical storm there, doesn't it, moving off towards the west. And then you can also see with Gert deepening substantially, I think. Go a little bit further there. What pressure is that? 980s is that?
987.
So 984 peak by the looks
Though it's
of it
984 there.
Yeah, 984. Yeah. That's probably extratropical transition. Could get to hurricane status maybe just before doing that. I doubt it, but that is one potential possibility. If you've got any comments or questions, by the way, whilst we're on air for this hour, we're doing this regularly, by the way. We will be doing tropical weather bulletins like this every night now, at the same time, same place, so you know exactly where we are, at midnight UTC, 8 p.m. US East Coast time. We're looking at the Eastern Pacific now, and you can see not much was going on there. Here's the wide webcam, by the way, where you can see everything that's going on here at Force 13 HQ in the studio. I still, for some reason, the webcam that's supposed to have my face on it is out of commission. Maybe because it was my face that it was showing. But in any case, we're now looking at the... Now, what's that going on over there? Is that Banyan, or is that something else?
Oh, that is Banyan, I believe.
It is.
Yes.
So you can see how it's expected to curve away there towards the north and north. Do you think it's peaked?
The models say yes, and I would have to agree with them, specifying that as it moves north, it's only moving it into cooler waters.
Yeah, and didn't you
And
say...
higher shear too.
I'm sorry?
And higher
wind shear.
Higher shear too as well.
Yeah. Did anyone see what Banyan looked like last night?
Yeah,
It
it
looked
looked
pretty
pretty impressive. At around 0 UTC on the 13th is around when it looked its best for me.
Yeah, I do have the imagery, but I can't actually bring it up to show everyone, unfortunately. But it did look pretty good for a time. It looked almost like a Category 4, Category 5 even, at least for an hour or two, but it appeared to rapidly intensify and then rapidly weaken again after that, and in the end, by the midnight UTC, which is 24 hours ago now when we were looking at that, it weakened to a point where it was pretty much justified, and that the ATCF went with 105 miles an hour. There's the North Indian Ocean that we're looking at. It's all the same model of GFS. You see very little going on there.
I can change to a different model.
We looked at the. Was there anything else in the Western Pacific as a whole that developed there? I don't think there was there?
There's there's 91.
Yeah, what happened to
that's
91
only
W?
forecast.
Oh, there's this right
Dive.
around southeastern Japan that catches my eye.
Doesn't look tropical there. Possible subtropical maybe.
Maybe.
Could even get tropical. Who knows? Interesting
Talk
one.
about unusual for the West
Interesting
Pacific,
one, but
and subtropical will be the #1 word.
somehow I doubt it. And what's going on there in the off the Korean Peninsula as well, briefly? No, I don't think that's anything. Let's take a look at a different model if we can.
ECMW what?
Yeah.
Anything else really would do just fine.
Well, I can get us a different model.
Hmm.
Well, let's try Euro. See if there's anything there. Let's see. I think it's this one. Yup.
So here's another view then, another model, and again you can see how it curves off towards the north, then northeast. Okay, let's get one or two questions. Bryce says, any chances of Gert becoming a hurricane? And Send Help says pretty much the same question. Any predictions for Gert's top wind speed?
Most of the models are keeping it below hurricane status at this time, and then like I said, the NHC has it peaking at 65 miles an hour, but as it's doing that, it's supposed to turn extratropical and die out, and then probably go out there and do nothing. So no, not really. The models aren't really forecasting it to become a hurricane.
One or two questions about whether 91L will form as well. Oh, that's the ECMWF model taking it into... Now, this is interesting, actually. Sorry to interrupt. Into the Caribbean and then off towards the Greater Antilles, southern Florida, the Keys there, it would appear. Can you just stop on that last frame where it's near the Keys? What pressure's there?
Yeah, right there.
What pressure?
987 or 997?
It looks like 992.
992. So, high-end tropical storm, possible weak hurricane, maybe. I doubt it. But another possibility there. ECMWF usually has a good reputation amongst the storm trackers.
But nothing that's going to break Florida's major hurricane streak.
Yeah, some people... one or two people I've heard, along the channels here, that 91L will be a potential major Cape Verde hurricane. No indications that make that particularly likely yet.
And keep in mind, NHC only have it at 10% for the next 48 hours and then 40% within the next 5 days. Right. So, I mean, we still got plenty of time to watch it.
Well, first of all, it's got to deal with all that dry air and the Saharan air layer, hasn't it?
Yeah, the SAL. I think it's actually doing quite poor right now, I think, because of the dry air. Last time I checked, it was doing fairly poor.
It's a bit of a mess right now. I don't think if we get the satellite imagery on 91L at all, Dane. I'm not sure if you've got that.
Well, it doesn't look like NavGem's doing pretty good with picking up on Gert.
Oh, right.
Since you basically can't even find it.
Where is it?
Under forecast.
Exactly.
Not doing very well then, no. Okay, we'll move on.
Exact point. I'm not even going to check the CMC because that's just laughable.
Don't. No.
Only realistic,
I
realistic
that the
ones,
answer
please.
is going to be a dead now.
That gym I think is like the lowest resolution out of them all. I'm in the lab gym there, JMA.
Very broad system there.
Interesting. Where does NavGem have Jova? It isn't even here.
Yep, not there either.
Clearly, NavGem's having some issues right now.
No, I can tell you what the problem is. I can see it. Or can I? Yeah, isn't that well out of date? The 11th, it says at the top there. They've not done any
NavGem
runs.
hasn't had a model in 2 days. You've got to be kidding me.
Nearly 3. No runs in nearly 3 days.
Then it is probably heavily broken.
That's certainly irrelevant anyway. Okay. Okay, now we're looking at Banyan's graphic and Jova's graphic about to come up here. There's Banyan right now from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. Are they saying it will intensify yet to get to Cat 3 over the next 12-24 hours, and then a gradual weakening trend, and by the 16th it will lose tropical storm intensity and probably be on an extratropical transition as it moves towards 40 north there. It's quite close.
So it doesn't necessarily agree that Banyan has peaked.
Yeah, they don't agree that it's peaked. They think it's yet to come. It could yet be, but it's quite far to the east there, not far from the date line. It could pass back over to the Central Pacific later on, probably extratropical.
And another.
Go ahead.
A quick thing to note here: it's like right between neutral and favorable winds here right now. I think it's last time I checked. I think it was like in 17 knot winds there, and there's slightly decreasing. It was a little bit higher earlier, but slightly decreased. But either way, the more north it goes, the higher the winds will be, and then it'll of course slowly start weakening too because of the sea surface temperatures too.
So if Banyan has a window, then it's quickly disappearing.
if anything, it's pretty much nearly gone by now. I mean, the more north it goes, the lesser chance it has. So, yes.
So now you're looking at the overall picture there, no other suspect areas. I believe David's here now.
Yes, I'm here in the studio and good to be here.
And what are your thoughts on the current situation whilst Dane goes and looks at something else?
Well, the one, Banyan, the Joy Typhoon Warning Centre is saying that it's peaked, and
Well, no, they haven't actually. We just saw that. We just saw it. They said that it will peak in the next 24 hours as a Category 3. That's probably you're probably looking at an older version there.
I'm looking at the Centre's advisory number 12, and I'm looking at the date time, or the date stamp 1418 Zulu, winds 100 knots, gusting 125.
Oh, really? Okay.
That's on
Oh,
their
boy.
track, on their chart.
Oh, so they've put it as a Cat 3. Dane, can you go back to that imagery, please? To the
To
Joint
the,
Typhoon Warning Center. Is that an out-of-date image? I think it is, isn't it? Is it? No, that's not. I'm confused now. David's saying it's 100 knots.
That's probably a previous.
Yes,
a
18
previous.
Zulu on the 14th, so that would be, is that gone or
Yeah,
coming?
that's 6 hours ago.
Yeah, 125.
Oh no,
and
you're that's the forecast you're talking about, isn't it?
forecast.
14 on. Okay, I thought you said that was right now. Sorry about that. Yeah, forecast to become a Category 3, 115 miles per hour. Yes. Oh, what are we looking at
Somebody
now?
get Craig. There's a tornado warning.
There's also what's going on elsewhere. We cover everything here. A tornado warning. Where's that?
Looks like it's in central Nebraska. It's in like central or
Let me look-
eastern Nebraska. I've got it up here
Let
on
me
the
go up. Let
map
me go
right
up on
here.
there and look on the warnings and read it out.
Tab.
Yes.
See which one the updates first.
Let's see.
All right, I have
There's
it.
a
It
tornado
says
warning for south central Custer County in central Nebraska until 7:45 CDT.
yeah, Central
So-
Standard Time.
So basically for another 30 minutes or so.
Yep. So there we are, Nebraska.
Anyways,
Also, here's the latest flow-through imagery on Banyan right now, which is, as you can see, moving towards the northwest, and you can see those furious cloud tops still exploding, really, aren't they? As it continues that pretty slow motion over towards the northwest. If you have any more questions for us, do let us know. The latest comment, Gert is a weird name.
a lot of people have been saying that recently. Could be worse though.
Indeed, if anyone's got any weird names they'd like to mention to us whilst we're on the air, do let us know.
Oh,
Get ready to
Well,
be.
Yeah, there will be
Come-
I
plenty.
swear if you say the name,
Get ready
if
for
you say the name
some
on it,
confusion here.
then the name is Campassu in
Oh,
the Western
yes.
Pacific.
It was a fun
Compassu.
year. It was a fun year, wasn't it, when we had Compassu
Yeah.
and Kopu, Compass and Cup, and there was another one, wasn't there?
Minjol and Lion Rock.
Oh,
Two.
well, of course, indeed.
Minjol, that's a weird name. Ugh.
So just to reiterate, you're looking right now at Gert. That's what Gert looks like right now, moving towards the northwest in the Atlantic. You can just about make out the Bahamas on the southwest of that image in the pink outline. As you can see, daylight fading over there right now, moving towards the northwest. No warnings in effect for either of the two storms that we're tracking right now, and of course you've got Jova moving off towards the west, or Hova, whichever one it is, and the two invests, 91L and 91W, both in the deep tropics there of their respective basins.
There's also severe thunderstorm warnings as well in the United States too. There's
Yeah.
like 5.
Yeah, I mainly
5, 7.
prioritize the tornado warning.
Some severe thunderstorms can be dangerous too. Like they could get up to like in the 80, 90 range. But so far, what I'm looking at right now, they're not too severe.
Yeah, what do you think
There's one.
is more
there's-
dangerous, a tornado or a
there's-
severe thunderstorm?
No. As
Speaking
you're
of
saying
that,
this, we
that
now
might be
have
a
another
good
thing
debate
that says.
13 topic someday.
It says
Whether
that
tornadoes or severe thunderstorms are more dangerous.
the weather service in Sioux Falls has issued a severe thunderstorm warning, and this one has a possible tornado in it. It's over like Vermont State Recreation Area, moving east at 30 miles an hour, 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, quarter-sized hail. It might have a possible tornado in it too.
Where do we
and
know
it'll
where
be
that
near
is?
It'll be near Wall Lake, and this is in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
All right, yeah.
Uh-huh. I see that. I see it, yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, that is
Again,
definitely
possible
one hook echo.
tornado.
That is
Yeah,
definitely
possible
one hook echo.
tornado.
So we're looking at storms of many varieties tonight, of course. We've got the severe weather situation over there in the United States, which we always track whilst we're alive as well, along with the tropics, which always keeps us busy. And
Definitely.
the image is supposed to be a little bit higher than that. There it is, the latest imagery of Gert. And again there, the latest imagery of Banyan, which was rather interesting. David, what are your thoughts of Invest 91L and whether it will form?
Well, considering how wide the cloud cover is, I'm saying it will develop, and I think we're going to see advisories issued down there in the Caribbean region probably within the next 24, 36 hours.
Indeed, and there's another graphic from earlier when we did the beginning of our show, showing you where these systems are right now. As soon as we get the other stuff off the screen. There we are. So as you can see, however, moving off towards the west there in the eastern Pacific, Gert in the western part of the Atlantic, and 91L, which didn't not so long after moving off the coast of Africa and moving out into the main development region of the Atlantic. And you can see the groovy scene there of the Force 13 webcam in the background. And there you can see the other side, Banyan Category 2 and Invest 91W way down there near Micronesia.
About what David said, when it comes to 91L developing, I think that might eventually happen, but I don't think that it's going to be within the 24 to 36 hours, quite like David said. I think it'll probably develop in the central MDR, like maybe like halfway between like Cape Verde and Barbados, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean the Grenadines.
Well, the trend so far is that the storms have intensified or have become tropical storms on approach to the Caribbean islands and not over in the Eastern Atlantic like we've seen in years past.
Yeah, so I think that is probably going to follow the trends, probably.
And again, we have like over 5 days to track this thing, so we have plenty of time to watch it over the next few days and see if any new developments occur. And right now, the wave is currently has like a 10% chance of development in the next 48 hours, and they have 40% within the next 5 days. So yeah, we have a long ways to go. But we'll be tracking it.
Well, there's another view on Dane's screen of the watches and warnings in the United States, and you can see there sea-bound tropical storm warnings in effect for Gert. They aren't affecting land, so they don't really... People tend to think they don't really count, but they are in effect for the high seas out there. I don't believe there's any warnings for Bermuda. Well, there isn't, so the National Hurricane Centre says so, but they might have some local warnings, like small craft advisories and the like, possibly. I don't actually know, but we could possibly find that out. I don't suppose there's any flood warnings out there either right now. Looks like there's a few flooding-related issues.
Looks like there's a couple flash flood warnings. From what I can see. There's one up here near the original.
So
near
that is
the tornado warning.
that is a flash near the tornado warning. Yep, not looking pretty there.
And then there's a couple flood advisories and stuff scattered across numerous portions of the U.S.
Nathan, I've got some information from the Bermuda public forecast from the local agency down there. Tropical Depression 8 is being closely monitored. Yeah, Gert. Is being closely monitored and is expected to track between Bermuda and the US coast as a tropical storm with little effect on our forecast conditions.
You would think, yes. What do you think about its structure right now?
It looks fairly.
Looking
To me,
at
it
it on
looks
the
fairly.
satellite.
Looks fairly decent right now. It's trying to get the convection wrapped around. I think the weakest part of it seems to be the northwestern portion of it. It seems to be the weakest. With the strongest being to the south east, and it just needs to develop a little bit. I believe it's trying also developing a little of a center, obviously for it to be named. And then, like I said, forecast to peak at around 60, 65 miles an hour as it turns extratropical. But yeah, it's starting to get better. Definitely starting to get better organized in the last few frames that we're seeing.
I think it's been getting better all day, and it's been increasing in size as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, some people say it's an ugly name and an ugly storm. I think it's going to do a little bit better than that. A little bit better. Better than, I think it's already doing better than some storms have done this year.
Well, let Gert decide on that.
Which storm do you think was the most pathetic this year so far? It's a tough one,
really,
isn't it? Because there's so many.
I know.
Oh, he's gone to the UK now. Why have you gone here?
I just noticed this big blob over Ireland.
Well,
That's all.
Well, you can see that significant weather there. No rain here at 413 HQ. As you can see, we've got partly cloudy skies. Just in case you wanted to know what our weather was, 59 degrees here at 413 HQ.
Yeah, it seems to just be clipping like western portions of Wales. Northern Ireland and Ireland are definitely getting hit.
And I bet no one thought we'd be talking about this during a tropical weather bulletin.
I don't even know why I started, honestly. I don't even know.
Okay. Well, that's what we've been discussing for this hour so far, predominantly. If you've just joined us, we are touching on quite a few things this hour. The tornado warning that's in effect over the central part of the United States there, Nebraska. And of course the tropical situation. No warnings in effect, but we are here to take any questions you've got and speculate a little bit maybe whenever that's healthy. When it's unhealthy is when we stop. And obviously no warnings in effect, and I don't expect that Gert will produce any warnings later on as well unless we have a significant deviation in its track.
This is some pretty heavy rain here. Look, Hellcore maybe? I don't know. Maybe.
And that's maybe in Nebraska as well, is it?
It's
looks like it, I believe so.
It's pretty much under the tornado warning.
Yep. Yeah,
You
well,
can see kind of the bow echo there to the bottom of that heliport.
Yeah, it's
quite
pretty much
clear why
right
they
at the
issued
bottom.
tornado warning for that.
Yeah,
We're
it's a
pretty
really
much
good
another
indicator
15
for
minutes.
tornadoes is the hook echo.
All right.
No new updates on the warning itself, but when we do get some, I'll be sure to read them out.
And whilst we're here, what did you guys think of Hurricane Franklin and what it became? It's still sort of there in spirit at the moment.
Yeah, it was a pretty well so far the most intense storm so far in the Atlantic Basin. Obviously, it peaked as around an 85-mile-an-hour storm. I think it was what it peaked at. Pressure I think of 982 and 983, and hit Mexico as it's kind of slowly weakening because of due to land interaction there, and it was a pretty bad storm for Mexico. I'm not too certain on the deaths or damages of the storm as of yet.
Not heard much out of it, have we? At all.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to Franklin, I think the proper pressure is 982 because we did get a reading of 981.9 millibars, which we can pretty much just round up to 982. But I do think that it might have been 90 miles per hour. Who knows? We'll see in the TCR.
I'm sure they'll upgrade it.
And it nearly tried becoming a hurricane too, as it was passing near Belize, not Belize, the Yucatan,
Oh, yes.
too. But it kind of like its convection kind of just waned and kind of just got disturbed, and then when it moved over it just like weakened to a 40-mile-an-hour storm, came back out, and then started rapidly intensifying and rapidly into the right to a 85-mile-an-hour Category 1 hurricane, and then hit Mexico. I'm
So
actually saying no on the time.
if you've just joined us, Tropical Storm Gert has winds of 40 miles an hour and a pressure of 1,011 millibars. Moving off towards the north-northwest, and you can see the imagery on the Tropical Weather Bulletin that we did just now, and we are still doing the extension of it. But also, Dane has some more extra imagery there, including the National Hurricane Center's track map, which shows you a little bit better than what I could conjure up in 15 minutes. So we'll take a look at that as well, and you can see how they expect it will turn post-tropical, accelerate out to sea Wednesday, Thursday.
And they
Nice to
say
know
it'll
they don't have to
deepen
worry about
slightly.
it when I go on a vacation in Tennessee next weekend.
And the models think it will deepen slightly as well. What is the National Hurricane Center's forecast advisory saying on its peak intensity expected?
I can look at it right now. Hold on,
You'll
just a
find it
second.
down there.
Okay, it says.
Do you know where I
it says
find it?
that
Isaac will tell
it
us.
says that it'll. It says that it's going to peak at 55 knots.
So they think it will
as
get
of
to
latest advisory.
65 miles per hour, which is
Yep.
10 short of hurricane status as it moves off towards the northeast. They say, when will that happen? Will that be Tuesday, Wednesday?
That says it'll be valid at for the 15 fonts at 6Z.
Oh, right, so pretty soon.
It's expected to turn from the current location or direction
Yep.
to north-northeast by Monday night. And sustained winds increase, as we know, 40 miles per hour, and that's expected to increase with higher gusts. Slow strengthening is forecast during the next day or two. And tropical storm force winds extend outward up to 80 miles or 130 kilometres northeast of the centre. So with the central pressure, how
It's a bit high, isn't it?
1,011,
I'm
gee, I thought it might have been.
I'm surprised that pressure is so high given its latitude there. It started off pretty small, this system, but it is expanding. And we're looking at that imagery there, and it doesn't look healthy on the north side at all.
Oh, this is actually future
I thought it might
imagery
have been.
because
Right.
the present and past imagery doesn't
Yeah,
send out
that's
far
pointed
enough
out.
with this radar to reach Gert. So
Of
this is
course.
actually more like future.
Also, can we look at wind shear in Atlantic too? Because I think people might want to see what the wind shear looks like for
well,
Gert right now. I'm
We'll
looking
show
at it
some
right now,
other
and it
imagery
says
whilst
it's
you get
around
that.
10. I'm looking at the graphic on my phone here, and it says it's around 10,
We're losing your signal a bit
to
over there, Isaac.
5 knot winds here
Yep, we're definitely losing him.
currently. So it's
Nathan, I'm
Oh my.
high winds here with.
I'll fade Isaac out there for a moment because your signal is pretty poor.
Hello.
Yes, welcome back. There's the
Oh.
Australian region as well. Are you with us now?
I think I am. I believe so.
Yeah,
Do you
the
hear me
signal
better?
the signal's got very poor, unfortunately. So I don't know how much we can persevere with this.
Oh.
But try now.
I'm just gonna say this really quick.
sorry.
Really quickly.
Okay.
It's Gert is currently between 10 to 5 knot wind shear, and the stronger wind shear to its west.
So if you missed that by the poor signal, unfortunately, you said that the wind shear is pretty low right now, 5 to 10 knots, and increasing to the west.
Yes.
What are we looking at now, Dane?
This is pretty much the same thing that I put up for Gert, like the future radar for Gert, but instead I put up the future radar for Jova,
All right, yes.
as it kind of basically fades off the camera.
Not
off
much
the
left of it.
range of the radar.
Hova. That's Hova. Yeah. Yeah, this thing's gonna be wrecked. It's heading into a really, really stable atmosphere.
Yeah, and that's been
Which
commented
is not
on
good
before.
for.
There's the
With
wide shot.
Jova, 2017 to 2017.
Hova.
Indeed.
The Spanish pronunciations are real.
Well, if anyone's got any questions for us whilst we're on the air, make the most of the time we've got right now. It's 1 hour every night that we're going to be spending here in the future, starting today. Same time, same place, on the same link even, on Force 13 Live. Midnight UTC is when we begin, going for an hour, 8 PM Eastern Time, where we discuss the latest goings-on in the tropics. And in future weeks, we will hopefully bring to you more shows as well, in particular. And there's the list of storms this year so far. Again, Harvey will be next in the Atlantic, followed by Irma. In the East Pac, it'll be Kenneth, and then Lydia. And in the Western Pacific, it's Hato next, I believe, and then Pakar. And now we're looking at Isaac's view. How's the weather over there in southern Texas? Well, I guess we can see for ourselves.
Hopefully, I'm not glitching out a lot, but it's
We're really struggling with the signal, I'm afraid,
good.
Isaac.
Windy.
I think the problem is that your signal does not allow for the webcam and
Getting a little cloud cover.
yeah. Fairly windy with some cloud cover. The problem is, I think, because your webcam and your voice is running at the same time, the signal can't keep up, I'm afraid. But there we are.
Is
the
my
meantime.
screen
Around
share
here.
showing
Can you
up?
hear me a little bit better? Or am I still lagging?
Yeah, still lagging a little bit. Okay, we've got this,
Am I
David. Talk us through it.
This is Tropical Storm 8
Gert.
or Gertrude. But look at
Not
the
Gertrude,
intensity.
just Gert, David.
Good. Oh, good. But look
Some
at
people
the
have popped that
intensity.
question. We'll talk about it later. Okay, yeah. Well, you've got.
Cat 1, Cat
don't
3,
look.
high
Don't
range
look.
Cat
Don't
3.
look at the top one. Don't look at the top one. It
No,
will
no,
be
no way.
nonsensical. Though I have to say,
Low
what's that
range
coming
Cat
from?
1.
HWFI? Another HWRF model? That'd be nuts if
But
true.
HWFI seems a little crazy. I think it's overdoing
have a
it.
look.
Yes, very crazy.
Well, you got to look at the consensus there, and the consensus says moderate to possibly high-end tropical storm.
Borderline Cat 1.
And I have. Oh my god.
Hang on, I'll just.
I'm looking at the HWRF model now, and
sorry.
it's completely gone off on one on this. I'm just a moment. I'm going to send you an image over, David, and I'd like you to show it on the stream, because this has to be seen by the HWRF model. It's just absolute nuts, if you ask me. We're about to see it in a moment or two. In a minute, you get the general.
Oh, hang on, here we come.
For the time being, you've got the general shot there of what's going on in the Western Hemisphere. Over on the western side in East Pacific, a quiet one. And this is what I was looking at just now. Absolutely ridiculous. Saying that it'll be a Category 4 for a significant part as it moves up towards the north. I'll tell you what, if it's right, then, you know, someone will win
The
a
water's
big
gonna
bet
end.
somewhere. But, hey, that's just...
If it's right, then it's the God model.
Yeah, well,
But
you know that the HWRF was the best model of 2016, if you ask me. In early 2017, in the southern hemisphere, in their summer, when they had storms like Dineo and Carlos and Inawo, the HWRF was consistently pretty much the best performing model there as well. I can't see this
But
being
now it's
right.
just half-brained.
I can't see this being right. But there it is.
Yeah, I
we
would
show
think
every
so, but-
scenario. Now I bet you wish you showed the CMC, because it's probably less nonsensical than this.
Even CMC can be more reasonable than that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there it is. We're just baffled by that, basically. There's the National Hurricane Center's public advisory. Should we read through that just briefly? Gert was located here. Oh, thanks for zooming in. 505 miles west-southwest of Bermuda. I'm guessing that's its closest point. Moving north-northwest at 10 miles per hour. Just in case you wanted to know all of that information. Their next update, by the way, will come out in quite a while. Another 2 hours or so until they do their next update.
And I believe Hank is with us right now too.
Oh,
Yeah, I just joined. So how is everyone tonight?
fine.
Quite good.
We're looking at Gert, and what are your thoughts at this moment in time?
Honestly, I'm a little on it.
Yeah,
No.
it's just the name, isn't
Really,
it?
well, for one. For the other, I mean, it's looking good, but at the same time, it's not really looking good.
Mm.
Because
it's
satellite
some sort of paradox there, isn't there?
A little bit. It's a bit of an oxymoron, but think about it. The microwave imagery looks terrible. Satellite imagery doesn't look half bad. So I'm a little torn here. I think 40 miles an hour is a reasonable estimate for now. 45, you know, that's also acceptable. Apart from that, you know, this thing isn't going to threaten land, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal. It'll probably just be a fun fish storm to watch, I guess. The other wave behind it,
Yeah.
don't quote me on this, but I think it's being overhyped. Remember the last wave we had that came off Africa?
Yeah.
That
Was
jumping all
also
over?
overhyped and didn't do anything for a long time.
Well, until it became Gert.
Exactly.
And
But we're just talking about Eastern Atlantic development. Doesn't seem to be the year for it.
Well, it might. Well, it's only mid-August. I mean, just wait a little bit and until later in the season, and we might see a big string of hurricanes coming out of the deep tropics, and could potentially threaten land, or just could be fish storms that go out to sea. Either way,
I'm not saying these storms won't develop at all, but I just think they'll be a bit further west when they do.
possibly. I mean, currently that actually the MJO pattern would support further east activity, and especially once we get into towards September, because it's also supporting some sinking motion over the western periphery of the Atlantic, and that is unfavorable for development. And it also means that we might not have as much land impact. Now, I'm not saying that just because we have an MJO pattern that is not optimal for tropical cyclone genesis does not mean we won't get activity. We still can, but it's just less likely. And just to remind you, it will be September, and it will be very active regardless. Similar pattern happened last year. August had an optimal configuration, and so far this August is looking to shape up somewhat active. And last year we had a somewhat, dull September compared to August, and then October, what happened? It ramped up in terms of the more intense storms. So this season could be really focused in August and October again, and maybe not the meat of the hurricane season will be as active per se. But yeah, so 91L, whatever. It might try to get something later on.
Yeah.
And
well, we can
Banyan
Go on.
is
Yes.
Banyan is that other invest in
What
the
is it
Pacific.
doing? I mean, I'd like to bring up some satellite imagery if possible. All I have is this that you're seeing on the screen right now, the visible. The eye is deciding whether or not it wants to come out and play, but I'm not sure it will. JTWC thinks it's going to intensify more, become a Category 3 tomorrow. Do you agree?
I mean, it's been at 90 knots for I think a whole day now, so it depends as to whether or not it can really get its eye together. Because, I mean, it has the overall shape. It has the look to it where if it can just get the eye to coalesce, per se, then it could get up to what the JTWC is predicting it to do. And now, yesterday, we thought it could have gotten to a Cat 4 because of the pretty quick intensification that went under. But, storms that intensify that fast have to go under some sort of an adjustment, and it went under one and just didn't really fall under what we'd expected to do.
I'm looking at it right now. It actually appears to be shrinking more than anything.
Well, the cloud mass is because it's got some pretty good radial outflow, so the overall cloud mass is shrinking, but that also is it's better for the storm to intensify rather quickly. Now, fortunately, no land areas are in its way, so that's not a concern at all. Wake Island did get some impacts, but not much.
Wake Island's in its wake.
Sure.
Just about.
Yeah,
nothing else out there is going to curve towards the north and northeast.
Yeah.
So,
and they're West 91W, I think it is. I mean, it might or might not develop. I don't know. It's just too early to say. It's one of those things that's just there, and you don't really notice it until it starts developing. So,
just in case anyone wanted to take a longer look at the sea surface temperatures, we showed them at the top of the show. But you can see them here over in the East Pacific. The Central Pacific's warming up quite nicely there, 28 degrees south of the Hawaiian Islands and its extended islands off towards the west there. In the eastern part of the East Pacific, temperatures along the Mexican coast, 30 plus in one or two locations. Gulf of Mexico, nice and warm, 30 degrees. In the open part of the ocean, a little bit cooler near the coast there, especially on the northern side, and in the Bay of Campeche, obviously much cooler there after Franklin's passage. And the same too, really, for the Western Caribbean, though it is still plenty warm enough for tropical cyclones, 28 degrees plus. Do you think sea surface anomaly is going to have any impact in the Atlantic this year?
Well, the developed region is certainly above average, and that is another concerning factor that we might see a busy MDR season after. But I think the last big MDR season was probably 2011, and it's been a while since we've seen this sort of activity. but there's still that wild card, that big, not necessarily big, but that area of some warm anomalies east of the United States and south of the Canadian Maritimes that could go in favor or against the favor of the Atlantic activity this year.
Well, I guess we'll see how it does with Gert, won't we? It's going to be going up that.
Potentially, I mean that it'll be obviously it'll be favorable for Gert.
But we were just talking about this before you got here, Hank. Guess what? HWRF thinks it will get to Category 4.
I saw that, and I don't think that's very likely.
No, I'm convinced that at the next advisory, next update, it will come out and get back in line with Cat 1 or Tropical Storm.
I mean, it could get to a hurricane, but certainly not Cat 4.
Yeah. No. We're looking at some imagery now as well. Who's providing that?
Me.
Yep, there's some infrared imagery of Gert, and those latest images might suggest that the western side might be coming up against a bit of a wall there, Hank.
Yeah, Skype sucks. Anyways.
If you missed that, I was just saying that on the infrared imagery that's being shown right now, that perhaps the western side of the storm is coming up against a bit of a wall right now.
While wind shear?
Maybe it's dry air looking at it.
Yeah, there is a little bit of dry air to the west of this.
Could be shear too.
It's being fueled down by it's being pushed out against that boundary that's been causing all that flooding in the southeast United States, and some of it's being entrained into Gert, and that is limiting it to what could be its full potential. And by that I mean what the NHC initially forecasted it to be at this point, and yesterday. So that could be a problem for it down the line. It could prevent it from being stronger down the line, not just now. Wind shear is still looking like it could be an issue, but right now I'm not really too sure about that because it's decreasing over the system. The 500 millibar shear isn't looking too prohibitive, and the overall pattern, I would say, is relatively favorable for further intensification of this, especially if it gets into the higher latitudes. You get some baroclinic interactions, and it should begin to intensify. Whether or not it gets to hurricane status or not, we'll wait to see. But it won't really matter because no real land areas are in the way. So, nice fish storm to watch, I guess.
One would hope so. Well, we're fast running out of time, believe it or not. So I don't know if anyone's got any final comments for this evening about the tropics or about general weather before we let go and come back tomorrow.
It's August, okay? Keep your guard up. It's not the meat of the hurricane season. That starts.
Well,
really
we were saying, you mentioned the stat earlier that the average first hurricane is what, August 11, did you say?
August 10th.
August the 10th. So you can sort of say that we've left tropical storm season and we're just entering hurricane season now.
Well, Gert could either play into that or not, but it could really go either way. But yeah, the beginning half of the season wasn't all that impressive. Yeah, we had a lot of named storms. They were weak. It'd be very little ace, record low ace for that many storms, for that matter.
Yeah. People thought 2011 was bad. I remember that, and people were complaining that there was so many tropical storms to begin with, no hurricanes.
Yeah, well, Brett and Cindy got close, but whatever. Anyways, it was 2011 was a year where you had a lot of dry air in the Atlantic. Well, actually, not dry air. A lot of wind shear in the Atlantic, and in the first at least third of the season, and that was really holding back the activity. Then late August came, and you know what happened. Started off with Irene, then Katya, then a whole string of storms out in the North Atlantic, pretty much. So,
Excellent. Well, that's pretty much it from all of us here this evening. David, any final things to say?
No, but keep your eye on, what's it, 91L.
Dane, how about you?
Nothing really.
Alright, well,
Just have a good evening, people.
everyone's remarkably quiet. Fantastic. That makes my job much easier. That's all for now. We'll be back again tomorrow. Don't look at that white screen. Look at, not that either, the live webcam outside at Force 13 HQ, which is what we're going to leave on tonight. We'll be back again tomorrow.